My voice doesn't carry as much as Chris's. My name is Robert Murphy. I am with the Maryland State Department of Education, and my job takes me all over the place. My primary responsibilities is I lead discipline reform in our state. Some of you already know that we're embarking on discipline reform. I lead the dropout prevention efforts, and I lead alternative education efforts. So my response into the question of what are we going to do or how do we manage these young people, I think first, part of the reason I want to talk about this slide is this. We've heard a lot of conversation about poverty. Poverty is this, poverty is that, poverty is this. Poverty is like the new leprosy. Nobody wants to get it. But I'm going to suggest that I don't necessarily know that poverty is really our issue. And I'm going to tell you why. The human brain is malleable. Whether you're poor, you're rich, wherever you are, it's malleable. As Brother Chris talked about, we talk about structural racism and kind of what we have going on. When we start looking at how structural racism impacts our students and our country, quite frankly, what we're talking about is outcomes. So we use this term racism. It's like this nebulous term that's just kind of out there, and we never really tie it to anything. So I'm going to suggest to you, as we start looking at school and we start looking at performance, structural racism looks like lower expectations. It looks like less rigor. It looks like not adequate resources. It means assigning the least prepared teachers and the teachers nobody else wants to the highest need schools. That's what racism looks like, and that's how it plays out. It also plays out in our discipline policy and practice. In Maryland, in 2006, we suspended of 181,000 suspensions statewide we suspended 108,000 black kids. Majority of them weren't for violence. It was because I rolled my eyes, I sucked my teeth. I got on your nerves. So I'm going to suggest to you, we got to begin to fill the reservoir of hope for so many of our African American, Latino young people, and quite frankly, our poor whites. In my state, in Maryland, some of you don't know, Maryland has 24 jurisdictions. Maryland is essentially 3 countries within one. East and west are red. The middle is blue. My kids on the shore, eastern shore of Maryland, their families are dropping out they're dropping out for personal reasons. Their families culturally don't think it's important actually to graduate from high school. Quite frankly, they can be crabbers, they can be watermen, and they can make more money. And I've had teachers tell me that they've had kids come into their classrooms and throw their paycheck and say, look, I make more money than you, teacher. So why would I go to school? Why would I graduate? Central Maryland, it's a whole other thing. So I'm going to suggest to you that what we got to begin to do is, again, fill the reservoir of hope. And hope, with the adults who are working with young people, looks like what we have to demonstrate is compassion. We've got to communicate. We've got to display expectations. We've got to display care. We've got to display empathy. We've got to display that we are committed to them as young people. And as we fill that reservoir of hope, then kids begin to trust, because let's be very clear, those kids who are part of our system who have never seen success, and who are always criticized and always told, well, you're poor, and you can't learn because you're poor, you can't learn because you're black, you can't learn because you're a girl, whatever it is, when we start fulfilling their buckets, then what we have is young people who are beginning to trust systems that adults are in. When they begin to trust, they begin to invest. When they begin to invest, they gain confidence. And once they gain confidence, then they can perform. Now, we've got to be very clear. What performance looks like, it might mean that the young man gets a 50 on this test, but after you invest in him, he gets a 55 or a 53. But we've got to understand that's what performance looks like. The other piece, and I'll say that, I think I'm running over my time. The other piece that we have to do is invest in families. We cannot do this in isolation. I have never met a parent who said, I don't want my kid to be successful. What I've met is parents who don't necessarily have the skill set to help move their kids forward, and that's where we come in. Some of you that are CBOs, you schools, whatever, start engaging parents, because parents are the ones that are going to help and support you in your move forward. And as Mr. Chapman said, I have strategies that I guess we'll talk about once we get down, and I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Michelle.
Okay, when Crystal invited me to come here, she didn't tell me I'd have to go after these.
It was alpha order. I'm sorry,
That's
Michelle.
okay.
My name is Michelle Nealon, and I am happy to be here today representing the National Guard Youth Foundation. And I work at the Montana Youth Challenge Academy. I'm the post-residential supervisor. And the reason I'm here today is to enlighten you a little bit about Youth Challenge and let you know about the option of Youth Challenge that exists in 35 programs in 29 states. Youth Challenge is a wonderful, wonderful alternative for at-risk youth or kids who have withdrawn or dropped out of high school. It is a 17-month program. The first 5.5 months are residential. The last 12 months are post-residential or after residential. And the greatest thing about the Youth Challenge program is that it is free to all these families who have no hope for their kids and do not know what to do to get their students back on track. As I mentioned, I am the post-residential supervisor. The unique piece of Youth Challenge is the post-residential phase because when the students graduate, they graduate with a quality screen-trained mentor who works with that student during the residential phase and for 12 months after graduation to keep that student on track. The other wonderful thing about the post-residential phase is that what I oversee is the placement of our young cadets who graduate. When our cadets graduate Montana Youth Challenge, they leave with a realistic, verified placement that they start within 30 days of graduation. We do not have them just graduate and say good luck and we hope that you're able to apply what you've learned in the program. We set them up for success so that they can go right into the military, right into the workforce, community college, Job Corps, high school, etc. within 30 days of graduation and have that set up. As you all know, it's very overwhelming, especially for parents, to fill out financial aid, college applications, military papers, helping them do a job application, filling out the 16-page application for Job Corps. What I love about Youth Challenge is that we help the kids do that while they're in the residential phase, and when they leave, they are set up for success because that placement is in place. And it's within 30 days of graduation, so there's not too much time to get back into trouble or to lay around playing video games, etc. So we've had a tremendous success in Montana. We've had over 2,000 graduates since our inception, and at the last point of contact of our graduates, which is either at 12 months or 4 years, 80% of our cadets were still actively placed long-term. And the 3 ways that we measure placement is in the military, back in school, or in the workforce. So what I'm hoping to do today is to share with you what has worked for us in Youth Challenge. Prior to being at Youth Challenge, I was the supervisor of a dropout recovery high school for Los Angeles Unified School District. And that was a wonderful experience as well, so I hope that I can share some of that with you. The one thing that I did learn from that job is that kids, even though they graduated, were not successful after graduation because they did not have a placement in place. So we're again finding that this post-residential piece and this placement piece is very important to ensure the success of our young people. I chose this slide here because this to me embodies what Youth Challenge can do for not only the students but for their families and their communities. Most of our students come with no hope. I have to be honest, when they come on that first day, they are a train wreck. You guys have seen it. They've been doing drugs, they've been in jail, both of the above, they've been bullied, their families have been, fighting, they're not talking to their parents, they've been disowned, or a combination of all these things. For the first 9 weeks, they do not see their families. We do have a family day at the end of the first 9 weeks. This picture is not a staged picture. This was snapped by accident by our marketing guy who was just snapping pictures at the first family day of a father and a son reuniting, and just the emotion and the hope and the pride that was going on between these two when the father and son reunited. And it still gives me chills even right now, and I've seen the picture a million times, as to how powerful we are when we provide them the right opportunity. So I'm happy to be here today, and I hope that I could help a little bit. Thank you.